Anyone can go out there, start a business, but if it's not well thought out and well executed, no one cares. So I used to be a shop designer, but then I got made redundant, and it was a bit of a turning point of, should I now make property my thing? I'm not a natural entrepreneur. Having your own business, making your own money was just not part of the narrative growing up. We see it polarised on Instagram. Everyone's doing HMOs like that. They're not. Most people, it's still really bad stock. A lot of disregard for like who actually is going to live there. I want my tenants to walk in and feel like they're in Pinterest. Why not? Why not have that aspirational space that you probably couldn't go and rent or buy by yourself, and make people like yourself look at it and go, oh, that really resonates with me actually, and I want to do a better job? Then that has a really positive ripple effect. I'm down for that.
What is it that you find so useful about masterminding?
I mean, it's connection, right? Self-employment, regardless of the size of your business, you've got to make the final decision. There's such a big comfort being around other people that are at a similar level to you, and then also ones that are further ahead of you that can inspire you. The cash flow that your portfolio might have given you in 2017, nothing like it is now. So this is where I see the opportunity.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Property People. Today I'm joined by Jade McNeil from Beespace. How are you today, Jade?
I'm very well, thank you, Sam.
Good to have you back. I only have my favorite people on the podcast back. You've been on previously once before, and this is a special episode because we have launched an initiative, a mastermind for property people in the sector about talking about their properties and their businesses. So before we dive into what that's all about, please just give us a quick little background about who you are and your current operations within the property and business space.
About Beespace. So Beespace is a property development business based in Nottingham. We, for the past, God knows how many years, been specialising around HMOs, particularly student HMOs. So that's been the focus for the past couple of years. This year, we've brought multiple rooms to the market in Article 4. So I guess we're kind of specialists at what we do. And in the industry, I'm known because mainly about design and about my brand and how impactful it is. And yeah, we're kind of a multifaceted business with, we've got property development in there, we've got developments in there, I've got my own lettings arm, I've got consultancy, a lot of moving parts.
And you've gone into retail recently?
Yes, thank you for reminding me about that. We've gone into retail, so kind of a spin-off from the main construction business, the Builders Yard, which launched in October in Nottingham. So the plan with that is, so builders merchants, essentially, we're selling building materials. The plan is to create around 6 stores, to roll 6 stores out in the East Midlands and potentially sell it on later. So that's been exciting, that's been interesting, it's been an eye-opener, but something we've wanted to do for years because it makes sense in the mix of what we've got going on.
I highly recommend anybody that hasn't watched that in first episode to go back and watch that to get a little bit more of a background. But for those who haven't yet watched that one, just tell us a little bit about your venturing into entrepreneurship and into business, because it wasn't this whole intentional thing that you've done. No. But since you've done it, you've grabbed it with both hands and you've run with it and you're doing some amazing stuff. And actually, it started out in retail, is that?
Yeah. So I used to be a shop designer. Well, I started working in Topshop, like on the shop floor, and then moved to doing kind of visual merchandising, doing displays and windows and stuff like that. And it just grew and grew and grew until I found myself one day in a fancy head office dealing with multiple brands, global brands from around the world, and designing shops for them, which is pretty cool. But then I got made redundant on maternity leave with my first baby.
Wow.
Yeah, which was a bit of a blow. And at that point, we'd kind of always dabbled in property because we lived in renovations, kind of, because husband's a builder, we kind of did them up, sold them on, made a bit of money. And it was a bit of a turning point of, should I now potentially make property my thing? And I did.
And you did?
Yeah.
And it's that whole customer experience of when somebody walks into a retail store and they get not only, where's the till at and where's the product at, but a whole vibe about a place and a brand. And I think the fact that you worked in those spaces, you were very much one of the pioneers, from my point of view, that actually started creating branded spaces for HMOs. And it was because of that background. So going from that and then thinking a little bit beyond that down, well, if I can do this from a business point of view, why can't I do the next? How did that evolve in your mind? Did it suddenly come naturally to you, or have you had to kind of read loads of books? Have you had to have somebody convince you of it? Is it innate to you, or is
No,
it
I'm
trained?
not a natural entrepreneur, not at all. You know, like I'm from a very working class background where having your own business, making your own money was just not part of the narrative growing up. It was like go out, graft, pay the bills. That's kind of where I'm from. But just kind of going back to the store design thing, when I started getting into doing particularly the HMOs, and I looked at what the market was like, and it was kind of like Magnolia, maybe White, bit of IKEA, Pax Furniture. Being me and being a shop designer, working, creating experiential retail spaces, I only have one way to design and create. So it was taking those design principles and putting them into my building. So like for me, the front of a property effectively is my shop window, right? So I want my experience to start out on the street. Then as you walk up to the property, like what you touch, what you feel, the door opens, what your eyes see, where it takes your navigation, what it's saying. That's how I just by nature to start to design my buildings. And at that point, like being on Instagram and just kind of posting that, this is like back in the day Instagram as well, so it's much more simpler platform than what it is now. That just got a huge reaction from the handful of property developers that were on Instagram. And then it kind of just like the business kind of happened. So the design started getting attention. People then started coming to me saying, would you design for me? Which scratched a massive itch for me because I was able to continue designing. You know, her baby's small, 202 at that point. But it also meant that because I was getting more online exposure, it opened me up to meet potential investment partners to be able to grow my own portfolio. So that happened. My portfolio grew, and then it's like, I probably need my own letting agent to come in now because it was all outsourced, and I wasn't necessarily happy with the brand experience continuing after I'd given the building to the agent. So we brought Eli in-house, who's still with me now, my ops manager. And then, like, all of a sudden, we've got kind of like quite a substantial business, like bringing in, you know, different streams of income from different parts of the brand. And I did all of this based on, okay, you know, sort of finger in the air. This is what I think, this is where I see the opportunity, and going after that opportunity, but always at the center of every decision, being led by brand, being led by design. And just me as a person, I just want to, it's a bit of a cliche, but I want to disrupt the industry and say, look, there's a better way to do this. You don't have to do it the way that you're being told you do. What about this choice with design? Because ultimately, you create a better customer experience. You hold on to them for longer, right? They stay in the shops longer. They stay in the buildings longer. It's better for your bottom line.
Absolutely. And I was going to say exactly that. Because you created these branded spaces, these design-led spaces, did you find that you would fill the rooms faster? Did you find that you'd get a better rent for them? Did you find that the people were staying longer, which is really what everybody wants as a landlord, as an investor?
Just going to pause this episode to say, if you're enjoying what you're hearing and you want to apply to the Elevate8 Mastermind program, then head to the show notes below. Guys, listen, I promise you this is going to be the most unique mastermind program in the UK property and business space. So come and join me and Sam and hang out with us in the amazing East London. Yeah, so you know, like voids in your portfolio, it's just a killer. Nobody wants that churn. So like the longer you can keep hold of someone, the better it is for the business. So like, let's say our professional tenants are probably going to stay with us. You know, at the beginning I was told, oh, most people stay for like maybe a year. So like 2 rounds of a 6-month contract. Genuinely, I've got people that have been in my professional lets for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Like they've been in there.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, genuinely. And then obviously the students is a different model because they probably, most of them will be with you a year. Quite a few of them do stay for 2, actually. They'll say straight away, can we keep it for next year?
Yeah.
That's great. But, you know, with the student side, it's then about what rental income are we achieving in the market and where do I sit? So I sit always in the top 5% of rental income. So like comparatively, Beespace properties are going to get somewhere between 25-30% uplift. And that is because the way that they're designed, the customer service that they get when they're in there, and people are happy to pay a premium for that product.
And, you know, I've been in property for over 20 years, and so I remember a lot of the rental stock that we used to let out in and around North and East London, where I used to operate as a letting agent. And some of the really, like, the classical kind of landlord that doesn't really do anything, it's a tired property. So seeing what you were doing was actually how we met.
it
Was
was.
literally my business partner, Andy, had seen you on Instagram, and Andy and I are both agents. We're both good with numbers and getting a look and feel for what probably will work. Andy's actually not too bad with design, but I literally don't have a design bone in my body. So it's all about leveraging and finding good people to work with. And he introduced me to you, and you actually designed one of ours. And
I did two for you in Coventry.
Well, exactly. And then we thought, actually, that's good. We may as well do it for the next one as well. So, and that's helped us as well. So that property's been really good for us. Like you said, we have people that want to stay on longer, and it just made us want to do it in all of our properties. And I think that was a trend that started to happen across the board. And now we see some really beautiful designs in rental properties across the country.
We do. I mean, but we see it polarized on Instagram because that's where we primarily use our social media on Instagram. And it's like this little lens that we see it and we think, oh, the whole world is like that. Everyone's doing HMOs like that. They're not. Just the Instagram community.
That's it.
Most people, it's still really like dire quality, bad stock, a lot of disregard for like who actually is going to live there, how they're going to live. But I guess what I did and continue to do with my Instagram account is I make people like yourself and Andy look at it and go, oh, that really resonates with me actually, and I want to do a better job. And if I can do that, then that has a really positive ripple effect over a long period, which means we can improve standards and quality of living. I'm down for that. That feels good for me.
That is literally what it's all about at the end of the day. Of course, the bottom line is important. We are in a capitalist society. We need to make money to make it sustainable so we can do more and more of it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, with that main focus that we're creating great homes for people to live in where they can work, rest, and play, that's the bottom line.
It's a 360 give, though, like it's not just me benefiting, it's the tenants benefiting. So like people will walk in and one of my kind of core values is I want my tenants to walk in and feel like they're in Pinterest. Why not? Why not have that aspirational space that you probably couldn't go and rent or buy by yourself, but you can have a slice of it in this property? Or when you're a student, why not break that mold? And as in literally, student properties, they're full of mold. And no, you've got this experiential space, which they go all over TikTok. The mates are all, why not give somebody that space to be in? I'm in a privileged position to be a property developer and own these buildings. I'm going to give it my best because it's best for my people in there. And that's a long-term, decision.
Totally true. And so having done that and done it successfully and growing a high-yielding income-producing portfolio, and importantly as well, in and around your own area.
Yeah, Nottingham.
People like myself, I kind of chasing yields. I'm going to different parts of the country to do it. Because of other commitments, family, kids, etc. You've made it very, very concerted effort to make sure that it's in and around your area. Therefore, you can control the kind of management. You've got your ops manager locally. Then you've also been working with a lot. We talk about our little bubble. There's a lot of people that are doing some really great stuff in the space that we love their Instagram feeds and the kind of stuff. And you've worked with those people as well. So you've actually you branched out into another income stream. So tell us a bit about the people that you've been working with and the other people that are now doing. Some of them are Marriott's clients as well, which I'm very proud to say as well that I met through you. Yeah. So tell us how you feel about that side of the business, which is the kind of coaching side, because you also help with branding as well. You've got programs, etc. Tell us all about that.
So how that came about with that, again, was never intentional, but that happened because of COVID. So 2020 hit and I had multiple design clients on designing HMOs, but obviously everyone went, the world's ending, I don't want to buy anything, I'm going to just pause all my projects and we don't need a designer now, Jade. And at that point I was building my own house, so income was quite important into the household. Obviously, Tim's running the construction business, and it's COVID. I'm self-employed with 2 kids under the age of 2.5, 3, and it's COVID. 2 under 3 at that point. So it's okay, how do I take my design business and still make me money? Well, obviously, it's got to go online, so how do I do that? And I pivoted into basically one-to-one online consultancy to talk about branding and talk about design, and it was really I'll have a go at this and see if it works. And what happened is it opened the floodgates for all these property developers that wanted to come and speak to me and get my advice on floor plans and get my advice on feature walls and da-da-da-da. So I did that one-to-one for maybe a year and then thought, okay, I actually really enjoy this and this fits really beautifully in my lifestyle and how I work. And I'm still making a positive effect, but I'm doing it. I'm not having to be on cold building sites. I can do it from home. And it works around the kids because they were so small. And at that point, I had like limited nursery hours. You know, they weren't in school. So like, it's really critical on how I was using time. So from that point, I started what is known as my branding and design program, which I still run now, which is like a 4-week program where I condensed all the questions everyone was asking me, and I condensed it into a 4-week program. And then so many of the big brands online community came to me and went, I want that. Teach me how your systems and processes for brand and how to do creative direction, to brand your space, to get your digital to look the same. So I did that, and that kind of grew. And then I was like, actually, when I reflect on where else I can make a positive effect on other women that are in the same boat to me or similar, because for some mad reason I've managed to make all this work by looking at the way I use my time and systems and who I'm hiring, and created my mentoring program. That was sort of 2021, I think. And that's female only, and I still run that now very successfully. And then from that point, I created my mastermind program, which I ran for 3.5 years, face-to-face in Sheffield, which is more of a kind of, you know, established business owners together all around a table.
Which is something I joined.
Which is something you was on as well for a year, which was amazing.
It was.
And like all of a sudden, I've got this really kind of strong, not all of a sudden, it happened, you know, it took me 5 years to build it, but really core kind of consultancy business, let's call it that, under the umbrella, based on, you know, brand design, business, you know, building your business, your systemization, like all the stuff that I enjoy doing, really. So it's just meant I've been able to kind of work on a one-to-one and group setting and much more, you know, focusing on the things that I'm really passionate about and enjoy.
And building people around you, working with people that you enjoy. And yeah, I've definitely been part of that. The mastermind in Sheffield was great, and a lot of great people we work with, and I still continue to work with today. So which brings us to why we decided to launch Elevate8.
Yeah.
And it's a mastermind program. Tell us a little bit about how, from your point of view, how it came about, and then I can kind of share my side of the story as well.
So Elevate8 is obviously our mastermind program that we've just launched.
Yes.
Which is, you know, it's based in East London, in very cool venues in East London. It's face-to-face, and it's really about taking those business owners that are already there and really supporting them by giving them, you know, the right tools, the right knowledge, the right industry experts, and really supporting them to believe that they can grow their business up and beyond that 8-figure category.
Absolutely.
And a real core focus for us on the Elevate8 is looking at multiple streams of income. Which, how do I feel about that? Like, phrase, multiple streams of income. I think it's been overused a lot in our industry, and it can be a bit bleh. But the reality of it is, that is what you and I have both done. And we really realised that jointly at the start of this year, where we were discussing, what's working for you? What's not working? How are you feeling about this? And we were actually in the same boat. And it's like, what's working is having, you know, different things going on across the board. And it makes a lot of sense long-term, business, property development. And actually, what we can facilitate jointly in London is to encourage members to build a similar, you know, setup of a mix of property development and business.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, there's a lot of people that have been talking, I think, over the last, I don't know, however many years, about multiple streams of property income.
Yes.
So you can be a sourcer, and then you can be a this, and you can be a that, and you can be developing, you can do HMOs, you can do development, commercial, all that sort of stuff. I think that there's actually another way of looking at it, and I think it's a little bit better and a lot more sustainable. And it's simply, you've got a property investment portfolio, which is hopefully high yielding, income producing, long term. You might even have some flips in there depending on which area you're operating in, but that's the property income that you've got coming in. And hopefully that's long term, a nice long horizon, generational wealth, assets that you can pass down. Hopefully relatively low effort involved, hopefully some low risk as well. But you've also got an income producing business as well, a transactional business. And having the balance of the two, I thought was really, really important to me. Once I'd built the property portfolio, I thought, this is great. I need something else to keep me busy. I can continue growing the portfolio, but in the current environment that we're in, with all the landlord bashing that I've been talking
Yeah.
about over the last like 9-10 years, it just seems a little bit more challenging. And given the fact that I've already done it, now it's time for the income producing business. So if I had the income producing business, however, I'd probably start with the property portfolio because I want that as well as generational wealth long term. And whilst and this is another reason why I have come to this conclusion myself. Back in 2008, when we had the global economic credit crunch crisis, economic crisis, I realized that to be able to create income in a recession was the reason why the wealthy, really, really make big strides in those periods. It's easy to make money when everything's booming. It's how can you make money in a recession? And there's another thinker as well recently, which he's basically got he's a businessman. He's turning over £40 million. I met him recently, and he's got daycare centers. His daycare centers and his indoor play areas, soft play areas, are great when the weather's not great. But when the weather's good, it's really quiet. So what he's bought is ice cream parlors. So actually, when everyone's out in the sunshine, he's making money whatever the weather, and he's been able to hedge those bets. And I think that's the multiple streams of income are able to be able to give you that long-term sustainable security and growth that I think everybody's wanting to achieve. And surrounding yourself with other people that have done that or want to do that, there's not a lot of that out there.
No, there isn't. And I think you were spot on before, like where that term has been used, it's been about the actual physical buildings, right? Like you're building your portfolio or something connected to it. But what actually washed out of the Northern Mastermind that I ran, when, reflecting on 3.5 years of running it and generally what was happening around the table, is that if people didn't come to us, they might have come to us to do the property development part, but actually they also soon realised they wanted that exterior related business to come in for a cash flow. And as like you've said, like now we're at such a tough point where it's like, the interest rates, rental, there's just so much pressing down on being a property owner right now. The cash flow that your portfolio might have given you in 2017, 18, 19 is nothing like it is now.
Exactly.
And the assets that are going to do that are probably things that you're going to need to get planning uplift on. They're going to take a bit longer. It's a longer play. They're not quick deals unless you're doing the flipping strategy, which obviously is something that I'm doing for next year, for 2025. Then, it is tricky to make that cash flow. So the smart way to do it, I believe, you believe, do both, but do it with strategy and understand why you're doing both, because something's going to work, right? That's how kind of in our household, something will work in the mix of these businesses,
and one of the reasons why I thought you're a great advocate for this sort of thing as well is because it's all well and good just starting a new business here or there, but actually if you do it with a bit of branding, you do it with a bit of design, you do it with a little bit of thought, intention, you actually create something that stand out, which, believe it or not, is not that difficult when you see kind of like what the competition is doing. And a lot of these businesses are all fuddy-duddy. They don't pay any attention to that, or they remain quite small. So there's a huge potential for people with a little bit more thought and vision to be able to create something that's quite special. And so in terms of the different types of businesses, if somebody's doing multiples, I talked about indoor play centers and ice cream parlors. It doesn't necessarily need to be that, even though there's a real estate element to the indoor play center. For example, what I've done is I've got the high yielding income producing portfolio, and that's spread across London, the West Midlands, Kent, and the Northeast. But I've also got a finance brokerage, and the property finance brokerage, it kind of works with the property stuff. It kind of goes well. Do you have a recommendation whether somebody should be doing a property business or whether it could be something a little bit more left field than that? So something not necessarily related? How do you think that?
I think if it's related into some form and degree to property development, it is helpful. So like for you, for example, what's something that really helps you, because your clients feed this back to me, and also my experience as well, it's like you understand HMO development. So for a broker to really understand that's important to me. So that kind of knowledge from doing the developing is really vital for me as your customer. So if there is a connection in there in the business, coaching is not like property development, but the conversation I'm having coaching is always around property development or the business that I've built in connection with that. So it's good to have a connection for sure somewhere in the mix. So like for Elevate8, the type of people that, we encourage to come and apply to the program, we're looking at kind of like your brokers, your architects, your builders, your designers, planners, so on and so forth, because there is that common thread in there. The flip side to it, and this did come through on the Northern Mastermind as well, was that, you might have somebody on there that's not necessarily got the property development experience as such, but they've built an incredible business. They might have built it, sold it, and they bring so much to that environment of experience as well. So they're kind of the other side of it, where the portfolio building is the primarily focus as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always tried to surround myself with people that can do something that I can't do better than I.
Yeah, definitely.
Or they're a couple of steps ahead of me, and I think that's always led me in the right direction overall, and to where I am today. And certainly when masterminding was a new concept to me, actually, when you actually brought it into my life, when you gave me that call that day, and I've been doing it in some way, shape, or form ever since, and I found it very, very useful. What is it that you find so useful about or powerful about masterminding and specifically?
I mean, it's connection, right? Because like self-employment, regardless of the size of your business, can be a lonely place, because ultimately you've got to make the final decision, come up with a vision. Like you've got to lead. So there's such a big comfort in being around other people that are at a similar level to you, and then also ones that are further ahead of you that can inspire you. Like a real moment for me when you invited me to join your mastermind that you're on at the minute in London was the opening session, when it was like, how's everyone's August been? And like all of these insane businesses, all selling different products, completely different, all said, apart from one person in there, like 20 odd businesses, August was terrible. What a comfort that was for everybody, that August sales were down because all of these other businesses were reflecting it. So there's the mastermind environment, you're there to be inspired and supported, but there's also like a serious comfort that you get from knowing like what's going on, in the bigger world in the UK, like how's everyone performing?
Yeah, and from my point of view as well, it's always this thing about being useful. And I remember when I was coming up to Sheffield and masterminding there, I had some experience in a bunch of stuff that people were hoping that somebody around the table would have the answer to, and I always felt it made me feel good about myself. But at the same time, I was going through stuff that other people had already been through and were helping me, and now I was at startup stage at that at that point, so everything was fairly new, systems and processes and hiring, SOPs, and something that, I mean, these are things that you're very, very good at. You've got a pretty loyal team that have stuck with you for quite some time. And it's because you've been able to kind of map out these standard operating procedures and a whole bunch of other stuff and culture, building that into the business. This was all stuff that I knew I had to do, and I wrote out my business plan, and I always do that. I've done that a number of times, and it's always gone well. But once you're in the weeds of it and you're trying to get stuff done, and you are doing the sales and you're doing the marketing and you're doing the operations, it's kind of hard to step out and see where you're at with the business. But when you take a day or so to kind of elevate yourself above the business and look down and work on the business rather than in it, surrounded by other good people, and if you've got good people coming in as well, so the people that I generally hang around with these days are literally in that 8-figure space, because that's where I want to be operating. I just found it completely changed a whole bunch of stuff, the way I thought about everything in life, and it's elevated me to a whole different level. Yeah, no, it's been amazing, and that's the reason why we're talking about doing
Elevate8.
Elevate8. So, in terms of what is the uniqueness of Elevate8?
There's lots of uniquenesses to Elevate8, but one of them for me is where it is. Right, so like I don't typically tend to leave the countryside these days, but everything I've done, I've always done it in the north. Whereas, I've often been asked, will you do anything in London over the years, and I've always kind of declined. But for me, I feel like now is the time to come down to London, particularly East London, for a reason, and do our mastermind there, because I think that, connecting to what you kind of just touched on there, one of the best things about a mastermind is that you do have to go and take 24 hours out, 12 hours out, whatever, for your business to really think about it and not be in it. So for me, where that happens is so important. What that environment that we can facilitate, those experiences, come with us to Shoreditch for this experience and talk about your business, your property development, it's going to be really powerful for the members. And there's nothing like it that exists in the property industry at all at the moment.
In terms of the outcome, so if somebody's to join Elevate8, what is the outcome that they can expect to achieve?
I really, you and I really want to be able to have people, give them the right tools and knowledge and support and empowerment to build confidence, to actually really grow and scale their businesses up and beyond to that 8-figure through multiple streams of income, and having the confidence to execute that, to actually do it and understand why, and having that strategy, having that marketing plan, building that team, like all of those things, that's what I want to be able to facilitate for members.
Yeah. In 2008, I keep going back to that point because I remember being hit quite hard with the income that I had, which was mainly from the estate agency. All the property stuff that I was doing, we never kind of touched that. And so I didn't see it as multiple streams of income. But however, come 2015, those properties have gone up in value, all paid off, income producing. And I never thought of it that way. But I just saw my income as an employee, which was good at the time, drop to near zero. Yeah. And I literally just thought, this why should this happen to me? How come it doesn't happen to other people? It took me quite a few years to go and study that stuff and realize that if you can create multiple streams of income, that you can make sure that you thrive through any economic environment. Definitely. And right now, with all the turbulence in the economy, we've just had a change of government, high tax environment, high interest rates.
That's the great thing about me and you, is it is a bit of a yin and yang kind of approach in terms of what we're going to bring to the table of experience and opinion, I guess, which is a good thing to have that exposure, because what you're saying is not wrong. It's just a difference of opinion.
I had a buddy of mine who lives in North London. He's a head teacher of a really good school in North London. And he came down to Portsmouth to visit me, and I shared with him my views of Donald Trump, and I think he wanted to disown me and never speak to me ever again. But this is the reality of life, that we have two opposing thoughts and beliefs can be correct at the same time, and it's how do we navigate through this stuff together? How do we feel comfortable to be able to, in a safe environment, discuss these things and elevate ourselves to a high level of understanding.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why we work well together as well, not only that we don't agree all the time, because that would be boring and probably wouldn't work, is we bring slightly different skill sets to the table. So whilst I'm most comfortable in a spreadsheet, just talking about numbers and percentages, you're much better at the branding and the design and bringing a vision to life.
Yeah. I mean, definitely where I'm the most comfortable and confident is brand marketing, social media.
Exactly.
All the fun stuff. And like where you thrive is in your numbers and your deal analysis, working with your lenders and understanding the appraisal side.
Which I would say is the fun stuff.
Yeah, okay. But so there definitely kind of is that balance. But I think one of your core strengths to bring to our mastermind is having that connection with lenders, having that connection with what's going on, having that ear to the ground with the market. So I always remember when you were part of my Northern mastermind, you would always have a different approach to everybody else in the room when it came to like, the world is ending, like what are we all going to do now? And you'd be like, yeah, I hear that, but the history has told us this and the economics look like this, and actually that puts a different spin on it, which is kind of I don't want to use the word elevated, but more of an elevated spin on kind of the realities, the realities of what can go on in the big bad wide world and how it does affect us as property developers, business owners, income and so on. So you've always had that insight.
Absolutely. And 2008 is that's why I mentioned it a few times, is partly the reason why I have that. It. If you like this episode and you would like to be a founding member of the Elevate8 Mastermind and you want to join the waitlist, Look into the show notes, click the link below, and we hope to see you soon. Yeah, I really felt it that time. And, and when I talked to my dad, who's a property investor, my mum as well, and they've been through the early 90s, the late 80s, they really, really felt a lot of this stuff, and they talk about it. My dad had a bunch of properties in the Northeast when the average house price was 80,000, and he was buying 2 up, 2 downs for £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 and flipping them. The interest rate went up to 16%. And he freaked out about that. And he went into multiple streams of income. So he went into kind of fast food takeaways, and then he went up the kind of into different verticals for wholesaling and manufacturing it within that line, whilst also having the properties as a multiple stream of income for generational wealth. That I think has had a huge influence on me. So I piece all that together, and I can see that there's actually this cycle of boom and bust. It just gives me the confidence that wherever we are in the cycle, there is opportunity. Especially we live in the Western world. Like, we look around the world and there's war and there's famine and there's all these other crazy disease and all these things that happen. But where we are based here, in the Western democracies, there is opportunity, and it's down to the individual to be able to find those, group together, and pull themselves out. And that's what I've done for my career. And it's worked really well, and you can have a lot of fun doing it, and all of the things that you're not so good at. So, for example, the branding and design, you find good people to work with, and you leverage. You have to get that time leverage, and that skill set leverage. And I think it's a meeting of the minds that we put this together, because I have a huge respect for what you've been able to build, and certainly that comes from a level of expertise that I don't necessarily have myself internally.
And I do think, to your point there about like there is opportunities available. There is, if it's quality. That's the difference, right? So like anyone can go out there, start a business, but if it's not well thought out and well executed, and even more now than what it was back in the day, your marketing, your content, your strategy, your messaging, your visibility, doesn't matter if you're selling, builders tools, or you're selling pizzas or houses, whatever your product is, if you've not got all of that nailed, brand, visibility, marketing, social media, voice, no one cares, because it's so competitive now in the online space. And like whatever business you're in, you've got to have it spot on your phone, because that's the way the world works now. And that is where, I really want to bring that to the members of the Elevate8 mastermind, because it's so important. We don't want to execute mediocre, because anyone can do that. Let's do high quality and excellence, because it just has better long-term results.
Completely agree. It was this summer I was in France, and my buddy Gimme was saying about, people that start these businesses, even if you're starting a kind of a burger van, why would you just buy something that's really dull and boring?
You need experiential, right? You sell out of burgers instantly.
Why
get on your Instagram, get on your messaging.
It's not that
Look
hard.
at the way you say things, use the emojis and everything. You've got to be conscious of all that. But the thing is business owners, that's how I am wired up and programmed. But like, for example, you're not. So you need the support to be able to go and like execute that. So you build a team around you. And even though I am passionate about branding, about marketing, and I know how to make something visual and look good and direct it, I don't create it. I don't create content. Hannah, who's worked for me for many years, she nails that. Let Hannah be amazing at what she does, and my other people in my team, let them do their jobs, and then we get that result. But I've got to direct that ship. I've got to understand, why am I doing this? What's the result that I require to get from this? How do I manage the cost? How do I manage the budget? That's a missing link there. We might need to bring this person in to help us do that bit. That's my job in the mix of it. But always understanding, I want to execute quality, because I've got to be a market leader to stand out.
Indeed. And one of the words we were talking about, or one of the things we were talking about before we started, was collaboration. And whether it be with Hannah to do this, or whether it be Eli to do that, or whether it be, you just can't do something and execute it with quality if you're doing it all on your own. And part of that is internally in your business on the day-to-day operations and building that out. But also part of it is pulling out and saying, right, I'm going to surround myself with other business owners, and I'm going to be able to take a moment to actually reflect on everything that I'm doing, set new targets for the month ahead, review why the targets for the last month were or weren't met, what could we do better, having that ability in your and time in the diary that you set aside to be able to reflect properly and collaborate, think about which collaborations are working, which ones aren't. All of that, it needs to be intentional.
100%.
And I genuinely don't see lots of people doing it to the extent that they do, and that's why I think facilitating it is so important going into 2025.
Yeah, I think for me, like, collaboration is something I really want to drive Beespace forward with for next year. So, like, collaborating with you on the Elevate8, because you bring something to the table that I don't bring, and vice versa. Like, that really works, and it's something I'm going to be doing more and more as I go along, because ultimately what collaboration is going to do for you is open up your audience, which is going to open up opportunities, whatever that looks like. So it's a smart way to think about business. It's a smart way to, you know, not just rely on your Instagram account to, you know, get your results, because you can't anymore. You've got to think out of the box. So collaboration is one of those key things. What other brands can you work with? You know, what other activities can you do to open up your audience and introduce new people into your world? Just, it's kind of like one of my things that I'm really going to take hold of moving forward.
Good. And I look forward to doing it with you.
Yeah.
If it's launched, if people want to find out how to join Elevate8 and be part of the community, how can they do it?
Well, they can head over to my Instagram, which is 3_Beespace, or your Instagram, which is
Sam Lowney.
Yeah. All the details are in my bio on there, and in yours as well. Show notes below this episode. I don't know why I'm going like that, but, you know, yeah, just all over Instagram, really. But yeah, I think, you know, anyone that sat there and is thinking, I've got this thing, you know, I've got this business, I'm doing a bit of this, but I just need to bring it all together because I know I can make it work, but I don't really know how to put rocket fuel on it, are perfect to come on Elevate8. And, like, you know, we're going to facilitate this environment in East London. We've got a lot of social activities planned in it as well for the evenings, which is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Lots of experiential activities for the members to be included in. Key speakers coming in who are like mind-blowing, you know, with like years and years of experience of building businesses and different assets, bases up to, you know, share how they've done that with our members, so on and so forth. So I think I feel really passionate that this product does not exist in the property development / business space. You know, yeah, super unique, this one. Absolutely. And it's in one of my favorite, you know, the center of the universe, in my opinion, East London. It's where I moved from the Northeast down to East London. And I pretty much, for the most part, the last 25 years, lived mostly in East London. And it's an industrial, hard-working place where magic happens. So I cannot wait to share that with everybody and see them soon. Yeah, brilliant. Hey, property people. As you may know, I have set up a mastermind for property investors, developers, and business owners to scale their business. It's called Elevate8, where ambition meets action. We offer full-day sessions in East London, online accountability calls, one-to-one strategy sessions, access to a vibrant community of like-minded entrepreneurs, and much more. It's time to build sustainable wealth through diverse income streams. Don't let uncertainty hold you back. Elevate your business and property portfolio with us. And for more details, click in the show notes or in the bio, and I hope to see you soon.